Gentle parenting has been really popular in parenting conversations since about 2015. So there was an author of a book with the name Gentle Parenting named Sarah Ockwell-Smith. She was from the UK. And she came up with this take on parenting that I think people were really craving at the time. I think that there were a lot of people who were feeling burned out, overwhelmed. They felt like they didn't like being monsters to their children and getting aggressive, but they didn't know how to solve problems. And so she wanted to help them come up with something else. And so then this movement took off. I think, she probably had a good intent, but it really backfired, and people saw really quickly that it wasn't working. And I even made videos on this channel related to gentle parenting, specifically because I knew it wasn't going to work, and I was seeing that it was having problems before it was publicly, like everybody was like, oh, this isn't good. I actually was trying to point people towards self-government and learning actual skills that their children could use and that they could use that would help them in all of their lives, instead of being more reactive emotionally to everything and getting into more of this entitlement, walking on eggshells, not engaging in parenting interactions, which is what was happening with the gentle parenting approach. So I'd like to talk about why gentle parenting is bad. I know it's a big statement to say, but the movement did not help parenting, and I think we need to discuss it. So the really big problem with gentle parenting was that it basically just became the new permissive parenting, except for there were all these reasons behind it that seemed to be so researched and so clinical. The author of the movement, I think, really did want to improve bonding for people with their children. I think she wanted them to see each other more clearly instead of reacting at each other, really take the time to understand and to listen to each other. And I think that's a noble goal. But what ended up happening is, in the concept of gentle, we found permissiveness. Well, just let them be. Don't turn everything into a big deal. Don't have consequences. Don't address, basically, so many things is really what happened. And so we have now families who go out into public and their children are all over the place. They're walking on tables and climbing bookshelves and hitting other people and whatever. And the parents are literally just sitting there doing their own thing. And wow, yeah, that would feel nice for a parent to not have to worry about parenting, to just let the child wildly do whatever it's going to do, and they just get to have their conversation and do their thing and think, well, they're just children, they'll sort it out, and put all of the burden of learning and teaching on the child. We ended up getting a lot of really entitled, coddled children, and actually it didn't help the relationships, because when you're entitled, you start to demand instead of to feel close to another person. And that's actually what happened. When the children were not earning negative consequences for things that they should have, when the cause and effect was not necessarily being understood and taught, and they didn't get an opportunity to actually take full responsibility for their negative behaviors, then the learning process was frustrated, because that's actually how people learn, is through cause and effect. The gentle parenting movement, whether this was the intention or not, this is how it was popularized. It made it seem like to people that even if you told a child no, that was negative, that was somehow bad to tell your child no. So there was a whole bunch of almost parent shaming in an effort to not shame children. So it took this concept of shame that was becoming very popular back in the early 2000s, that oh, we can't shame, we can't shame. And so it was like, if you tell someone no, that's like saying they're not good. You can't tell them that they are a no, and so you don't set the boundaries where you need to. And so the children don't learn boundaries, and then you really end up with a problem. They're testing limits. There was a lot of really risky behaviors that started coming out of the children, and many parents were like, whoa, this does not work. My child is not turning out to be a good adult. They're not even launching into adulthood. They're not wanting to take responsibilities that adults should want to take on. This is not okay. So what do you do instead? I think we really have to talk about that. And really that's what I do talk about on this channel. I talk about self-government, teaching children self-government, and learning self-government yourself as the parent too. Because truly self-government is the recipe for helping you and your family have the better bonds. Every person needs to take responsibility for themselves. When parents that are doing gentle parenting don't have consequences that their children need to accept, when the cause and effect isn't necessarily learned, when everything is smushy soft in order to just overprotect the emotions so that they never have to feel an adverse feeling, we are creating a level of fragility that makes it so that really the parenting can't occur and the person ends up feeling like they should be able to control and dominate everything around them. This was eventually seen as a side effect of the gentle parenting movement that made a lot of parents run from the movement. And we now have people going, okay, well, what do I do instead? So what you need to do is teach your children about what self-government is. Let me share the definition with you, and I'm not saying this is how you would share self-government to your children, but you need to know the definition. So self-government means two things: that you are able to understand the cause and effect of any given situation, and number two, that you possess a knowledge of your own behaviors so that you can control them. So that means that you are in a constant state of self-analysis. Not like self-tearing down, not like self-shaming, just what's going on. What's going on? What skill do I have to handle it? And then when I have a feeling or something that I feel like I don't know how to handle, who do I go to for this? And how do I approach them? So how do I have productive, healthy conversations? Can I ever talk about my fears? Absolutely. We're not shutting anybody down, stuffing anything. I think a lot of people jumped into the gentle parenting movement because they felt like their parents were so heavy-handed that they couldn't ever express how they felt about anything. And parenting shouldn't be like that, and family relationships shouldn't be like that. So that was definitely a bad move from a long time ago, but there is a difference between stuffing emotions and dropping a subject. Huge difference. One of those includes ruminating, and one of them doesn't, but the outcome can look exactly the same. The parents were probably expecting their children to drop the subject without ever teaching them how, and so in a person's emotional immaturity, they chose to ruminate, which felt like stuffing. That's the difference. So in the teaching self-government training, in the books and courses and things that I teach, I talk about the 4 basic skills of self-government. And one of those skills is accepting no answers and criticism. There are many adults who don't know how to accept no answers or criticism. They don't know how to be okay when things don't go their way, or when someone tells them that something needs to change about their behavior. They're not mature enough to handle it. They immediately assume the worst of that person who's giving the criticism instead of the best. Now, it could be the criticism is not given in a very healthy way either, but still, we should always assume that that person's trying to help us in some way, not just tear us down, right? If we're mature enough, we would think that. So when a person accepts a no answer, the 4 steps that they need to know how to do is look at the person or the situation, because sometimes life hands you a no answer. Things don't go your way, right? Then you keep a calm face, voice, and body. So you need to know what that's like within yourself. And if you're having the wrong kinds of thoughts in your head, that's not a calm body, okay? If you just keep, getting angry inside. Then you say, okay, that happened. Or you disagree appropriately with the person, which means you talk to them about it. And then you drop the subject. That means you don't think about it anymore. You don't talk about it anymore. Once it's over with, I talk to you about it or something, I don't have to sit and think about this anymore. If I continue to ruminate on it and I don't drop the subject, then I now have to carry that pain, that history, that you did that to me. I don't know if I can trust you. I don't know if I can trust anyone. That thing again in my head. But if I choose, you know what, I'm not going to let this moment define my relationship or me or my progress or anything else. That happened. It's done. I'm okay to move on. If I can drop the subject, which is a very mature thing to do, and it takes training and practice to learn how to do it. If I really, truly can just let it go, I'm free. I'm free forever. I don't have to come back and revisit that experience ever again. People went to gentle parenting because a whole bunch of the population was not living in healthy ways. We had a major focus come in on mental health and emotional venting. So people were bottling up a whole bunch of emotions and ruminating on them, and they don't know how to let them go. They go talk to their therapist and let it all out there, but then with anybody else they can't, because they've made a habit of living with that weight of that bottled up emotion, instead of being able to go, hey, life hands me no answers sometimes, and I just need to drop the subject. I need to choose to not think about that anymore. The power of choice is the power to govern yourself and not be controlled by everything else around you. So gentle parenting is not the answer. It's not actually healthy for the parent relationships, even though I like the term. The concept of being gentle, why would you need to be any other way? But to be permissive is not going to work. So I'd like to give you more help. I've just scratched the surface of some of the things that you can do so that you don't fall into the trap of gentle parenting. And I have a full class on this channel called The Not So Known Secret for Parenting Success. We're just going to talk more about self-government skills and principles that can actually help you so that you don't feel like you have to go down that track of gentle parenting and possibly end up having some of those adverse effects. So click on the link to that video next. I'll see you there.